people are catching up on that, whether it's deploying self-driving cars and adding AI as the core component of it. So it's clear to me, and I think it's been clear to the world, that you're an AI-first company. Let's talk about self-driving cars for a second. I know that Waymo probably is the most advanced company in self-driving cars probably in the world today. Why aren't we seeing more applications of Waymo across different countries? What can we do to ensure that we usher this future in closer rather than push it further out in the future?
Look, I've been super excited about Waymo for a while, and I think we are really hitting our stride in the past 12 months or so. We've obviously been very, very safety focused. So the way we approach it is we want to build a very safe and reliable Waymo driver, and once we do that, we can really scale up from there. We've definitely shown the progress there. Thanks to the work with AI we have done over the years. We now have over 33 million rider miles driven, and Waymo has had 78% fewer injury-causing crashes compared to human drivers, right? And so now the progress is clearly there. Last year, Waymo, I think we served over 4 million passenger trips, and we are now averaging over 150,000 rides, paid rides per week in the US across San Francisco, Phoenix, and LA. So I think the first time any AV company has reached this kind of scale. And we are now expanding. We have a goal of doing this in 10 new cities in 2025. We'll be doing our first international testing in Japan. And so we do want to work with other innovative countries like you all, and that's the roadmap now we are putting in place. But we are at an exciting juncture, and I think the technology is working. And as you rightly pointed out, we have to scale it up by partnering with regulators in countries around the world.
So we're ready to partner. Let's put the UAE on that list and on that roadmap.
Looking forward to it.
I want to ask you a question as well about this. So once we achieve certain technological advancements, like self-driving cars, for example, or artificial intelligence or others, it creates new types of jobs. Although, yes, it does eliminate some jobs in the past. I think that these things cause disruptions. I've been thinking in the past couple of weeks, what kind of jobs are going to be created within the experience of someone getting into a self-driving car to arriving to their destination? Would we actually, and I saw this example in Japan. In Japan, you can actually rent a friend. So you can actually rent someone's time for them to come and talk to you. Will we actually start creating these jobs that will make the commute more appealing for us? Do you think that new platforms are going to emerge from these kind of services? Do you have any ideas of what's going to happen?
Maybe two observations, right? I think one is, I think there was a recent study by MIT economist David Autor, which said, if you go back to 1940, since then, 60% of the new jobs that have been created kind of didn't exist before that, right? And so there's this constant evolution we go through. Just imagine, even 5 years after the internet started in the year 2000, envisioning that there could be someone called a YouTube creator. Today, there are millions of creators, and they're real small businesses, right? And they generate value, they employ other people, and so on. So we have to keep that potential in mind. To me, there is no doubt in an AI-driven world, just like the internet did, there'll be many, many new opportunities created. And I think over time, there'll be value and a premium placed on human experiences and human interactions, right? I think if anything, the prevalence of AI would place even more a premium on human experiences. We've seen that with chess, right? Chess has been, AI is the best chess player in the world, and that's been true for a long, long time. Chess is more popular than ever before, right? And more people are playing chess now, right? And so I think it's worth keeping that in mind. And so while the technology is going to be very prevalent, it's going to improve productivity, it will cause disruption, but it'll also create many, many new types of opportunities. When I look at our latest video creation models, video generation models, VO2, just like the internet, it's going to enable many, many more people to create content than ever before, right? And so I think we are expanding the type of opportunities available to people.
Amazing. Let's pivot a little bit to the company. And everyone in the world today, if you ask them about innovation, if you ask them about companies that are able to enact change in a way that allows them to maneuver around any change that happens in the world, Google comes top of mind. And most people think that Google is able to innovate because they offer beanbags and free coffee to their employees. I'm sure it's a lot more than that. The first thing I want to ask you about is what makes the culture at Google so special? Is there a formula? Is there a thing that you do to inspire people? How does it work?
Look, I think it's a combination of things. I think our founders, had, really set a very ambitious framework for the company, right? We used to say we need to have a healthy disregard for the impossible. And, we always felt that if you encourage people to work on very ambitious things, even if you end up failing, well, there are many advantages to doing that. One, you have very little competition. The more ambitious the thing you're working on, Waymo is a great example, right? Or quantum is, or AI is, there are fewer people working on it, and you attract the best people. And even if you end up not achieving that ambitious goal, whatever you end up doing will be very, very valuable. So I think that's the kind of framework we have always had. I would say, you have to have an optimistic culture, a culture of curiosity. You encourage optimism. You really push people to take risks, and you don't punish failures, right? You encourage risk-taking in your culture. So it's a combination of all that. But we've always had to experiment. For example, just about 2 years ago, I set up a labs group so that people can have small teams to go ship stuff. And out of which we shipped something like Notebook LM last year, and which ended up being very, very popular, right? So you have to constantly tinker and make sure you're innovating from the ground up.
So you approach things with the approach of a scientist. I went and saw how many projects Google killed, or let's say stopped over the last couple of years. It's around 296 projects in total. Maybe the number is a bit higher or lower. And what struck me is the fact that you're still trying to innovate, you're still trying to iterate. And yes, you might have breakthroughs like Android, for example, or like Chrome, or like Waymo. Most companies, when they go through so many iterations of killing projects, they tend to stop innovating altogether. But you guys maintain this. How do you identify when you continue a project and when you actually stop? What triggers you to say, okay, you know what, we've given that a go, we're going to park it for now, and we're going to focus on something else?
Look, I think there are two types of it, right? One is at a core technology layer, you're making long-term bets, right? In 2015, when I became CEO, I said the company is going to be AI first. And we decided to take a full stack approach to AI, right? All the way building research, building infrastructure. We started building our tensor processing units in 2017. We are in our 6th generation. So when you make these long-term technology bets, AI, Waymo, quantum, those, it will eventually happen, right? So you see it through. So I think at that foundational layer, you take a long-term view and you don't waver at all. At the application layer, you are right. When you take efforts to build products, you're going to have some successes, and some things won't work out. That's true by definition. I think there's judgment there as to when you keep pushing through, and at what point do you see it's not getting traction, your approach is wrong, and you have to course correct. And there's definitely judgment there. We don't always get it right, but I think it's important to go through that weeding process too. That's what keeps the company fresh, and you're constantly pushing to do new things.
We were having a conversation yesterday with a global CEO as well, and it's the gambler's dilemma. When do you cut your losses, and when do you keep investing, and when do you hit it big? I want to maybe ask you a final question about the culture in Google. Do you tell people to use AI? Do you have any training programs for them to use generative AI? Is it something that you push for, or is it something that you're waiting just to see how it's going to affect the employees and the culture in Google?
Look, this is internally at Google, this concept of dogfooding. You you eat your own dog food, is what we call it. We really want people to adopt our technologies and be at the cutting edge. There are two examples I would say. One is we are really trying to help engineers code using AI, right? And already we've made deep progress on having AI tools give people suggestions that can complete as they're writing lines of code. In fact, 25% of all code being written now has those suggestions from AI, which are accepted by engineers. But now we have smaller projects which is pushing it to the next level. Like, how can they give the AI agents tasks and that can go and actually do much deeper work for them. The second is we are taking many, many functions and business processes across Google and trying to think how we can make them more productive using AI in a deep way. How can we do customer service in an end-to-end way that is better, right? And so, but to answer your question, yes, we are deeply encouraging people to use AI, right? And we measure it, we track it. And when we find solutions that work, we bring it to our cloud partners as solutions for them to try in their companies, right? And that's how we create that iterative cycle.
There was an initiative that was launched in the UAE. So the Crown Prince of Dubai, once he saw the impact of generative AI, said that we want to do a citywide, and now maybe a countrywide program to teach 1 million people how to prompt properly on these tools and become much more effective. And there is a genuine belief here that this tool can be wielded to change the world, and we need to get people ready to be able to prompt better, to be able to extract value better, and to do more. So I'm glad that, whether it's in coding or in other domains, we're able to do more with people. I'd like to pivot now maybe to more questions about your journey, personal questions, if you don't mind. And I was actually inspired to hear your story, how a boy that was born in India and had the ambition to change the world ended up running one of the most valuable companies in the world, and maybe the most recognized company today that everyone knows around the world. Why do you think you made it? What was the secret that got Sundar to start in a village in India and end leading one of the world's largest companies?
I mean, I'd have to reflect on it. Look, I think for me, I was fortunate in some way, I had to wait a long time to get access to technology. So growing up, every moment was very, very vivid for me, right? Waiting for a telephone for 5 years, etc. And so, I saw firsthand how it changed my life and the lives of people around me. So I think I had this passion to kind of get access to technology and to make sure I was working on things that would bring technology to as many people as possible. So maybe in some ways I had a personal mission, right? And I was fortunate to find a company like Google. When I read Google's mission statement, in which it said, it wanted to make information universally accessible, that's what really excited me to come to Google. So I think part of it is being, you need to get excited by a mission. That's what pushes you to do your best work. Now, beyond that, I would say, challenging yourself to work with people who are better than you, right? And I think, so you have to, you learn and grow when you're pushing yourself to be with people who you think are better than you in many, many ways. And so, I've strived to do that over the years, and, it's what helps you learn and grow. So maybe a combination of that. But, I would encourage everyone, to each person, the path is different. But if you can find something, that resonates with you in a deeper way to your heart, I think that brings out the best work you can do.
It gives us hope that maybe a child born somewhere in the Middle East in a rural village can one day in the future become the CEO of one of the largest companies in the world. And I feel like there's a lot of lessons from your story there. Every single person I met, everywhere I've been, is obsessed about something. What are you most obsessed about?
Look, I mean, at this moment, I'm spending a lot of my time on AI. I mean, the rate of progress, how profound the technology is. It's the first time I felt, even if I travel for a couple of weeks outside, and I come back to the company, I go back to the teams working on AI to catch up on the progress that has just happened in the last 2 weeks, right? So you've rarely seen a technology which is progressing. So, obsessing about making sure we are driving the technology forward, making sure we are building applications around it, and that we are doing it responsibly. We want to be bold, right, with this moment in time, innovate, but the technology obviously needs to be deployed responsibly. And so thinking through it, is partly my obsession nowadays. And so I think it does come back to AI.
And since AI is the reason why you're obsessed, any fears that you have for what AI can do that we're not paying attention to? My view always is Google can do a lot more, but I believe that you guys are restricting yourselves from just deploying everything because you want to be responsible players in this domain. But what do you fear most when it comes to AI? What's something that, as government officials, we need to pay attention to?
Look, above everything, I would say, as governments, you want to focus on the AI opportunity, right? And I think UAE has been, I want to give credit. It always surprised me that you became the national AI minister back in 2017, I think, and I think that is pretty far-sighted. And I do think for governments, that's going to be there's going to be no technology which would impact your economy as much as AI. So stepping back, making sure you're investing in your country's infrastructure, like UAE has done, making sure you're skilling your population. You gave the example of teaching people how to prompt in Dubai, right? And so skilling is going to be important. Unlocking data, in the public sector, right? And using that data to come up with solutions using AI. These are all tangible ways in which I think government should think about AI. On the risk side, which you asked me, and I think all of us need to be responsible with this technology. The opportunity space is huge, but obviously it's a very powerful technology. It can be a self-improving technology. And so making sure you're developing competency to evaluate risk, assess risks, and take the appropriate steps over time, is going to be something we all need to invest in. And there have to be global standards around it, right? So for example, as the technology can create real deep fakes, what are regulations to prevent that, right? What are standards all of us need to deploy in our technology so that you can detect that something was AI generated, right? And so those are all going to be important provisions. So I think both end up being equally important through this moment.
What can we do about deepfakes? Because, I think you face this more than anyone. You are a famous person that has a lot of video content online. Is there anything we can do about that?
Look, I think we are definitely developing technology, and we are open sourcing it. We call it SynthID. And so we are watermarking image generation. And we are also open sourcing the tools to detect it. We need to work with other companies to create a standard around it. But over time, I think broadly we want to encourage AI innovation, but there'll be areas where regulation makes sense. Like today in the financial world, you have laws against fraud, right? So you're going to need equivalence of that, in an AI world, and something like deepfakes would need to be tackled that way.
Let's assume that you, and I try to ask this question to everyone that I meet. Let's assume that you woke up tomorrow in my body and you were the Minister of AI. What decisions would you take that are currently not being thought of? Like, what is one thing that you're going to focus on that you think will have the biggest value for a company like the UAE or any country in the world?
Beyond, I would re-emphasize, the 4 areas I would focus on is supporting infrastructure, right? I think most people are underestimating the infrastructure transition. I think UAE has been at the forefront because it's not just compute data centers, it's energy transition, which obviously, you've been at the forefront on. Skilling obviously is another important area. I think the amount of work that needs to be done to help your population get ready and transition. I think it is something there needs to be a lot of effort put into it. I would definitely, I think that much tougher challenge has been encouraging governments to unlock data, right? And how can governments better utilize and share data to improve public services, like healthcare, education, transportation, disaster response. So I think being at the forefront of that, I think is a real opportunity. So that is something I would think about. And then finally, how do you have balanced regulation, which is pro-innovation, but for high-risk applications, how do you think about responsible regulation? All of that needs to be in the toolkit. Is what I would emphasize on. But above all, I would say being excited at this moment, embracing innovation, because it is something that's coming at us in a fast way, is going to be very, very important.
Sundar, thank you very much for your time. That was great. And thank you for taking all the questions. I wish you the best of luck in France, and hopefully we'll see you here next year.
Likewise, Your Excellency. It's a pleasure, and I look forward to visiting the region soon.
Thank you.